Hello everyone, welcome to the 160 Jury Charge and Literary class. We're going to start off with some Latin and French words, and I will give you the words and then read the paragraph, and then I'll reread the word with the spelling so that you can put it in your dictionary at a later time, okay? Here we go. Ready? We've got de novo or de novo. Then we have animus furandi. Okay, then we have sotto voce. Then we have, and then this one is spelled, or it's actually pronounced three different ways. So we've got viva voce. It's also pronounced as viva voce or viva voce. So there's three different ways that you'll hear it pronounced. Okay, and then we have pendenti lita. So pendenti lita. All right. And I know that word as well is also spoken as pendente lita. So that can go either way as well. Okay, those are Latin and French words. All right, so here's your paragraph. Ready? Animus furandi means with the intent to steal. The goal of animus furandi is to permanently deprive an owner of his property. De novo means anew or fresh. De novo usually refers to trial de novo. Another term for pending litigation is pendente lite. Pendente lite means during the pendency of the lawsuit. Alimony, pendente lite, is temporary alimony that is court ordered during the pendency of a divorce action. Voce means voice. Sotto voce or sotto voce, or you can say sotto voce, means in a soft voice so as not to be overheard. The term viva voce examination is synonymous with oral examination. Okay, so let me give you the words again. We've got de novo, that's D-E space, N-O-V-O, animus furandi, A-N-I-M-U-S space, F-U-R-A-N-D-I. Then we have pendente lite, or pendente lite. That is P-E-N-D-E-N-T-A, or excuse me, let me spell that again. P-E-N-D-E-N-T-E space L-I-T-E. Okay, then we have sotto voce, S-O-T-T-O space V-O-C-E. And the last one is viva voce or viva voce. And that is V-I-V-A space V-O-C-E. Okay. All right. I like these little Latin and French word paragraphs. It's very informative. Okay, so I've got a technical paragraph for you. You're going to hear reputation, attention, maintenance, fastened, battery, terminals, quality, cables, neutralize. Okay, and I'm going to read this one time, just under 160, and then I'm going to pick it up the second time and read it right at 160. Here we go. The new maintenance-free battery does not need to have water added during its normal life. The vents are part of the cover and cannot be removed. Be sure to keep the top of the battery clean and dry. Make certain that the battery cables are tightly fastened to the battery terminals. A small amount of grease applied to the top of each battery cable will help to prevent rust. If there should be any rust, remove the cables from the terminals and clean the terminals with a wire brush. Neutralize any acid with baking soda and water. With minimal care and attention, this battery should give you years of trouble-free usage. Our reputation has been built upon the fact that our batteries are of the finest quality possible. Okay, so I'm going to read that again, but it's going to be right at 160. Ready? The new maintenance-free battery does not need to have water added during its normal life. The vents are part of the cover and cannot be removed. Be sure to keep the top of the battery clean and dry. Make certain that the battery cables are tightly fastened to the battery terminals. A small amount of grease applied to the top of each battery cable will help to prevent rust. If there should be any rust, remove the cables from the terminals and clean the terminals with a wire brush. Neutralize any acid with baking water and soda. Or let me say that again. Neutralize any acid with baking soda and water. With minimal care and attention, this battery should give you years of trouble-free usage. Our reputation has been built upon the fact that our batteries are of the finest quality possible. Hopefully it was a little easier the second time. Okay, I've got some jury charge for you. Here we go. Ready? So we have a first settlement of January of 2015. That was the $500,000 or the $550,000, I believe. It was something like that. So that was actually settled and paid off in January, okay? Well, it was agreed to settle. All right. A portion of it was paid for, interest at 4.5%, and the receipt of the respondent shows that was fully paid off in December. And I have all the figures, if the court is concerned, but I think the court is touching upon an important area here, and that where I disagree with the court would be on the burden of going forward with the issue that the court is discussing, which is the notice and the opportunity to participate in the settlement agreement, and perhaps even the defense of these class actions and the case that came out of the Bank of America. We feel that as important as the court may feel that it is, that no other material went out other than the letter. We think it is important that that letter was not responded to, and the evidence will show that. The evidence will show through Mr. Reamer and Mr. Nunn that no attempt was made by Mrs. Nunn or by any of her attorneys to inquire, to contact, to attempt to review the file. As far as we know, the evidence will show no contact was made with the attorneys for any of the other parties in this particular case. We find that it is rather unusual for the applicant to come to court saying she didn't have the opportunity, as their brief says, or even the notice, as their brief says, of these actions, when she had been on notice of them, and further on notice, clear and obvious notice, that the accused was trying to charge his fee and attorney's fees to the city. Now, I think the burden at that point would shift, okay? When are we shifting? December or September of 2014. I think the burden really shifts, in my opinion, when she has notice of the claims. I think at that point she can make a decision. I hope you will take into consideration what I had to say, and please think about my client, Your Honor. Thank you very much. All right. I've got a little section here from Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. This is on praise and blame are all the same. Okay, ready? One of the most unavoidable life lessons is having to deal with the disapproval of others. Praise and blame are all the same. is a fancy way of reminding yourself of the old cliche that you'll never be able to please all the people all the time. Even in a landslide election victory in which a candidate secures 55% of the votes, he or she is left with 45% of the population that wishes someone else were the winner. Pretty humbling, isn't it? Our approval rating from family, friends, and the people we work with isn't likely to be much higher. The truth is, everyone has their own set of ideas with which to evaluate life, and our ideas don't always match those of other people. For some reason, however, most of us struggle against this inevitable fact. We get angry, hurt, or otherwise frustrated when people reject our ideas, tell us no, or give us some other form of disapproval. The sooner we accept the inevitable dilemma of not being able to win the approval of everyone we meet, the easier our lives will become. When you expect to be dished out your share of disapproval instead of struggling against this fact, you'll develop a helpful perspective to assist your life journey. Rather than feeling rejected by disapproval, you can remind yourself, here it is again, and that is okay. You can learn to be pleasantly surprised, even grateful, when you receive the approval you're hoping for. I find that there are many days when I experience both praise and blame. Someone will hire me to speak and someone else won't want to. Our phone call delivers good news. Another announces a new issue to deal with. One of my children is happy with my behavior. The other struggles against it. Someone says what a nice guy I am. Someone else thinks I'm selfish because I don't return his phone call. This back and forth, good and bad, approval and disapproval, is a part of everyone's life. I'm the first to admit that I always prefer approval over disapproval. It feels better, and it's certainly easier to deal with. The more content I've become, however, the less I depend on it for my sense of well-being. Okay. I've got an eulogy here from Cher to Sonny Bono, and this was delivered in January of 1998 in Palm Springs, California. It's very interesting. Here we go. Please excuse my papers, but I've been writing this stupid eulogy for the last 48 hours. And, of course, I know that this would make Sonny really happy. It's like Den said, he got the last laugh. So because I've had to write some of it down doesn't mean that I'm unprepared. It just means that I'm over-prepared in that this is probably the most important thing I've ever done in my life. Don't pay any attention to me crying. This is probably going to happen from time to time. And I also know that he is someplace loving this also. I have to wear the glasses that I made so much fun of him. I called him Mr. Magoo. I said, you've got to get some better glasses. I don't care if you're Republican or not. You've got to look cooler than this. So now I have to wear the glasses that I made fun of him for saying. There are a couple of things I want to share some stories, but there are a couple of things I really want to get perfect for him. So I have to read from my notes. Some people were under the misconception that Son was a short man, but he was heads and tails taller than anyone else. He could see above the tallest people. He had a vision of the future and just how he was going to build it. And his enthusiasm was so great that he just swept everybody along with him. Not that we know where he was going, but we just wanted to be there. He was also successful at anything he ever tried. Not the first time he tried, maybe, but he just kept going. If he really wanted something, he kept going until he achieved it. Once he told me that when he was a teenager, he got his nose broken 6 times because he used to get into fights with guys that were much bigger than him. And he said that they would just be beating the crap out of him and would just keep going back and going back and going back. I said, well, why? And he said, because eventually I would just wear them down. And if you know him, we all got worn down. Some people thought that Sonny wasn't very bright, but he was smart enough to take an introverted 16-year-old girl and a scrappy little Italian guy with a bad voice and turn them into the most successful and beloved couple of this generation. And some people thought that Sonny wasn't to be taken seriously because he allowed himself to be the butt of the jokes on the Sonny and Cher show. What people don't realize is that he created Sonny and Cher, and he knew what was right for us, you know. He just always knew the right thing, and he wanted to make people laugh so much that he had the confidence to be the butt of the jokes because he created the joke. When I was 16 years old, I met Sonny, Salvador, Philip Bono, and the first time I ever saw him, he walked in this room, and I had never seen anything like him before in my life because he was Sonny way before we were Sonny and Cher. He had this thing about him. He walked into this room, and I swear to God, I saw him, and like everybody else in this room, was just washed away in this soft focus filter, kind of like when Maria saw Tony at the dance. And I looked at him, and he had this weird hairdo between Caesar and Napoleon. As a matter of fact, one of the first things that he ever told me was that he was a descendant of Napoleon and that his father had shortened his name to Bono when he came to this country, but that he didn't want to make too big a deal out of this. Now, you have to realize at this time he was talking to a girl who thought that Mount Rushmore was a natural phenomenon, so we were definitely a marriage made in heaven. I lied to him about how old I was. I've told this story, but somehow it always keeps coming back. I told him that I was 18, and of course I wasn't. I was the most bizarre 16-year-old that you probably would come across. I had all kinds of phobias and all kinds of insecurities and all kinds of energy that just couldn't be harnessed, except Sonny saw something, and I didn't have a place to stay, and he said, you know, you can come and live with me because I have twin beds, and I really don't find you attractive. I didn't really know how to take that, but I was really glad to have a place to stay. And when people would call or come over and say, who is that girl? He said, oh, that's just Cher. We spent this whole time together, and I was just Cher. I was this kid, and he took care of me. I told my mom I was living with a stewardess, and every time my mom would call, I would say, "Mom, call me before you come over." And when she came over, I'd grab all of Sonny's clothes and run down the street and throw his clothes into my friend's living room window. I lost most of his clothes that year. One time he came into the house and he had his jockey shorts in his hand and he said, "Cher, you've got to stop doing this. I found them in the street." So nothing happened with us romantically until my mom made me move out. When I was packing my things, we looked at each other and started crying, and I didn't know why. Then I realized, once I was there, that I missed him so much. I was used to him being a part of my life. And I had to tell him then that I wasn't 18. I was 17, but I was about to turn 18. We were crying, and I said, "Well, I'm not 17, or I'm about to turn 18. That isn't true. I'm 16, about to turn 17, but I can't go through the rest of my life without you. So if my mother threatens to put you in jail, could you just do it anyway?" My mom kept threatening him all year, but then I turned 18 and everything was all right. Okay, and that concludes our 160 jury charge and literary class. Have a great day.